Hi, my name is Becky Draper, and we're going to do a yoga practice today on creating more stability. So, many of us have probably been feeling like we're on this roller coaster ride with the new coronavirus pandemic. And me personally, I feel like some days I'm doing really good, and then other days I feel very overwhelmed and anxious and fearful. And so, for me, it's kind of been this up and down of emotions. And so, what we want to do is bring our emotions more into the center so we're not feeling these like extreme highs and these extreme lows. Um, the yogis say that at the center of all of our beings is pure bliss. And it's not the kind of bliss that changes based on outside circumstances. So it doesn't go up and down depending on what's happening in the material world, but it's the kind of bliss that's always there no matter what. And so the way that we can grow this inner bliss is by making this deeper connection to ourself. And when we make this deeper connection to ourself, we grow this like inner stability. And that helps us navigate life with more ease, and we can be more open to all of life's circumstances. And so today we're going to practice creating stability in the body. And what we find is when we create stability in our body, we tend to be able to open up into these poses more and find more freedom. And the same is true as we create inner stability. It helps us open up to life circumstances and find more freedom even in difficult times. And so that's what we're going to practice today. If you would like to get like a blanket to sit on, I like to sit up on a blanket so that my hips are a little bit higher than my knees. This helps it so that I'm not rounding in my lower back, but instead my spine is able to extend. And this also helps my heart extend open so that I'm not rounding forward and closing myself off. If you have yoga blocks, I'm going to be using 2 blocks today, but if you only have one, that's totally fine. Or if you don't have any, that's really fine too. I'm going to modify everything so that I'll show you ways to use 2 blocks, 1 block, and no blocks. So no worries. Or you can get creative if you have something that you think might work like a block. Cool. All right, let's get started. So first, take a nice comfortable seat. You can be cross-legged. Sometimes if cross-legged is hard, you could sit up on a block or a blanket like this on your knees. But just find a way to make yourself comfortable because that's the most important thing. All right, so close your eyes and start to breathe up and down your spine and just start to be aware of what's happening in the body. And then notice if you're gripping on to anything. So notice if you're thinking about something from the past. Often this shows up as depression. Or notice if you're thinking about something in the future. And this will often show up as anxiety. And see if you can just be more in the moment and just accept things exactly as they are without trying to change anything. With each inhale, see if you can make the body feel more expansive. And as we become more expansive, this helps us widen our lens. And as our lens that we see the world through gets wider, often our problems become smaller. Good. Now bring your hands into prayer pose, right at the heart center. And then push your thumbs into the chest and then the chest into the thumbs. And this will help lift the heart and broaden the collarbones. And we're going to start class with 1 Om. So we'll take a deep inhale and then we'll Om. But I want you to not worry so much about what your Om sounds like, but I want you to be more aware of what the Om feels like in the body. So see if you can become soft enough that you can feel this subtle vibration. Take a deep inhale. Good. And then bring the hands down. All right, great. So we're going to start class today on our hands and knees. And I like to put a blanket underneath my knees. If you're on a hard surface and you have sensitive knees like me, or you just want to protect your knees so they don't become sensitive, then go ahead and put a blanket down underneath your knees. And then what we're going to do is first we're going to focus on our hands and using them properly. So our hands are oftentimes overlooked as our foundation. So first, spread the fingers out super wide, and then make sure that the middle finger is pointing forward. Good. Now don't press with the hands and just kind of hang out for a second and notice how that feels. Now I want you to press down with all your fingers until you see the little part right above the knuckles turn white. And when you see this turn white, then start to drag the fingers in towards the hand. And what this does is it should tighten the muscles around the wrist, and it may even create a little arch right here on the palm of your hand between the pinky side and the thumb side. And then with the hand engaged, notice if this helps you feel more stable. Okay, now stop pressing and just kind of feel the difference. So this should just kind of feel like you're not really doing much at all. Now really press down with the fingers and then start to drag the fingers in towards the wrists of the hands. And this should activate the wrists and kind of create that little arch support. And then just start to move around, keeping the fingers pressing down, start to move around in little circles, going back and forth, opposite direction. And this should start to kind of loosen the wrist muscles. So as we agitate the wrists, we actually make them stronger. And we do a lot of poses in yoga on our hands, and so it's really important that we take care of our wrists. A lot of us also work on the computers all day or a cash register, and that can be really hard on our wrists as well. So this is a really great exercise. Now what we want to do next is turn the fingers in towards the knees. The closer you bring your hands towards your knees, the less intense this will be. And then press the fingers down again, and then start to move around in circles. So I've been doing this consistently now for about almost a year, and it has changed the way that my wrists feel, and I can put a lot more pressure on my wrists without them hurting so much. So I highly recommend making this a weekly practice, maybe doing it at least 2 or 3 times a week. All right, great. Now come on to the back side. So you're going to turn the hands. So the back side of the hands are down, fingers are turned towards the knees, and then we're going to go around again. And this one's a lot more awkward, and you may even find that just doing one at a time is helpful. One side at a time. And what we're trying to do is just work up our stability so that we can do this with a lot more comfort. And I promise this will have huge benefits for your wrists. Great. And then come back. Now come up so that you're on your knees and upward. And then bring the right leg out to the side, toes facing forward. And then we're going to take our left hand and we're just going to come down onto our left hand and do this little side stretch. Now really push down with the left hand and the right foot and see if you can lift these right ribs even higher and get this stretch all along the side body. Take some deep breaths. Good. And then come back to center, and then we're going to switch sides. So now bring the left leg out. I'm going to move that. Left leg out to the side. Foot facing forward, and we bring the right hand down. Now really push into the right hand so that the left ribs start to lift, and then push down with the left foot so you feel this stretch all the way from the ankle and up the side body. And then take the left arm and reach it up and over. And keep pushing down with that right hand to get those left ribs higher. Good. And then come back to center. And now you can move the blanket out of the way for a minute. Keep it nearby because we'll use it again. And then push up into downward facing dog. And in downward dog, just start to move the feet, pedal the feet a little bit, maybe even do a little twisting. Just start to get in the body and notice what the body is telling you. Good. Now step the feet forward and fold forward. Put a pretty big bend in the knees and then just round in for a moment for this first fold. Maybe even try taking the chin all the way to the chest. Good. And then on your inhale, bring the hands to the top of the thighs. Push the thighs back and extend the heart forward. Good. And then fold forward. Inhale all the way up. Good. I'm going to take my sweatshirt off. Great. So now at the front of your mat, come standing, and I'm going to teach you some ways to use our feet better. So I find that a lot of people really don't use their feet much at all. They're just kind of standing. And so look down at your feet. Make sure that your feet are hip width apart. If your feet are together, this makes you less stable. But if your feet are about hip width apart or just a little bit wider, this actually gives us more stability. So now look down at the feet, and I want you to press the toes down gently. And then I want you to really press the feet down and then start to drag the front foot pad towards the heel. And this is like a really subtle action. And it's almost like you're trying to make your foot a little bit shorter. And as you do this, notice if you feel the muscles around the ankle tighten. You may even feel the arch of your foot lift. And you might also feel the muscles in the legs start to tighten as well. Okay, good. Now stop pressing down with the feet, shake it out, and just stand for a moment without pressing the feet down. And then notice the difference. Okay, good. Now, again, press the feet down. Start to drag that front foot pads towards the heel, almost like you're trying to make the foot shorter. And again, this is really subtle. If you don't get it right away, don't worry about it. It took me a while to really get this movement, but it has really changed my practice in huge ways. So I'm really want you to try to practice this. So drag that front foot pad towards the heel, and this should feel like you're almost pulling the energy up the legs. The muscles around the ankle get tight, the arches lift, and then the legs start to get stronger. Now lean into the right foot and lift the left knee up. Good. Now really push down with your right foot until you feel the left hip lift a little bit. And then stop pressing. And then you might notice that your left hip drops down. Good. Don't lose your balance. Just kidding. So now push down again. And then the left hip should lift. Good. Now put the left foot down. And then set the feet up again. Take the left foot, press it, drag the front foot pad towards the heel until you feel the arch lift and the muscles around the ankle get tight. And then now let's lift the right knee up. Good. Now push down so much with the left foot that the right hip lifts. And then stop pressing. Notice the difference. And then drag that front foot pad towards the heel and press down. And then notice the difference when you're pressing. Does this give you more stability? And it should lift the right hip just a little bit. Okay, good. Shake it out. Bring the arms up. On your exhale, fold forward. Good. And then on your inhale, bring the hands to the top of the thighs. Push the thighs back. Extend the heart forward, making the back long. We don't want to be rounding here. We want to be straight and flat. You can even reach your hand back and start to feel what's happening. If you feel rounding, dinosaur bumps, then you're probably rounding. And if you are, just come up a little bit higher until your back gets straight. Good. And then fold forward, step back into downward facing dog. Good. And then we're going to lift the right leg up into the air. And then we're going to bring the right foot to the front of the mat. And we're going to come up into a high runner's lunge. Good. So now in the high runner's lunge, first, just don't press the feet down at all and just kind of hang out. Good. Now really press the legs down And then notice if pressing down helps you push the spine up and get more lifted. And then stop pressing. Notice the difference. Now really press down. See if you can make the spine longer. Good. Now take the right hand to the right hip and lean to the right. Good. Keep really pressing down with those legs and see if you, with the pressing down, if this helps lift the left ribs more. Good. And then come back to center. Bring the left hand to the left hip. Good. And then we're going to lean to the left. Keep really pressing down with those legs so that you start to lift the spine and maybe even get more extension right here in these ribs. Good. And then come back to center. Now we're going to bring the left hand down to the mat, maybe even just a little wider than your mat. And then you're going to twist the heart open to the right. And then you can bring the right arm up and over. Good. And then bring both hands down to the mat. Step back into downward facing dog. And then now you're going to lift the left leg up behind you. Good. And then bring the left foot to the front of the mat and come up into a high runner's lunge. Good. In your high runner's lunge, keep pressing down with the feet to lift the spine. And then we're going to bring the left hand to the left hip. As we do this, notice if your shoulder is pointing forward. And if it is, see if you can pull the shoulder back. And what this does is it broadens the heart. And then bring the right arm up and over. Good. Keep really pressing down with those feet and see if you can get more of this lift right here. Maybe even take the hands and walk it up as you wake up each muscle along the side body. Good. And then come back to center. Bring the right hand to the right hip. And then we're going to lean to the right. Make sure, again, before we go, actually, notice that the shoulder's turning in. So it's kind of like pointing inwards. And then take it, rotate it back, and this broadens the chest. And then lean to the side. So I read somewhere once that when we do side stretches like this, we're saying yes to life. It kind of feels like you're opening up to all of life's experiences. Good. Coming back to center, bringing the right hand down to the mat, just a little farther than the mat. Good. And then take your shoulder if it's pointing forward, and then rotate it back, and then start to twist open to the left, keeping the collarbones broad and the heart open. Good. And then bring both hands down to the mat and then step back into plank. And at any point in plank, you can drop your knees down or you can stay up. We're going to slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Good. Now press the tops of the feet down, press the knees down, hips down. Bring the hands right where the armpits are and just hover them for a minute and just lift the chest up. Good. Now take the hands down, push down. And as the chest comes up, notice if the shoulders are turning in and see if you can pull them back. Good. And then keep pushing up as you drag the hands towards your pants like you're pulling the heart forward. Good. Exhale, lower down. Push back into downward facing dog. Good. Now lift the right leg up behind you. Bring the right foot to the front of the mat. Now we're going to drop the back foot at a 45-degree angle, and we're going to come up into second warrior. Good. So I want everyone to look at their front knee. Our tendency will be for the knee to turn in, and this not only does it help our stability, but what it does is it also tweaks the knee. So I want everyone to take the front knee and make sure it's pointing directly over the middle toe. And then bring the arms up. Now really press down with the legs and see if this helps lift the spine. And then now pull the shoulders up to the air. So this is kind of like being closed off to life. And then take the shoulders out and down. And then what this does is it opens the heart. And it's kind of like saying that you're open to all of life's experiences. Good. Now bring the left hand to the left hip. Now notice if the shoulder's turning in. We want to turn it back. And then we take the right arm up and over. And then really press down with the legs. See if this helps lift this right side even more. Good. Come back to center. Now take the right forearm down to the right thigh. And then now I want you to notice what's going on with this shoulder. So take a look. If the shoulder's pointing in and up towards the ear, then what I want you to do is push down with the right forearm until the shoulder moves back onto the shoulder blade, which should go onto the back now, and the head of the arm bone will move away from the ear. And then bring the left arm up and over. And then really press down with the feet and see if this helps lift the left ribs more. Good. And then come back to center. Turn the feet forward. Fold forward. And on this, you could grab a block if you have one, or you can always stay up on your shins and just take a moment to kind of ease into this pose. But what I don't want you to do is have a rounded back here. So I want you to come up as high as you need so that the back is flat and straight. And then I want you to imagine yourself blossoming your booty back. So you're like really proud of your booty, showing it off to whatever's behind you. Good. Now, we're going to turn the left foot this way, and then we put a bend in the left knee, and then we're going to come up into second warrior. Good. So now in second warrior, we're going to first check on the knee, make sure it's pointing directly over that middle toe. Then we're going to press down with the legs and see if this helps lift the spine longer. So we want to get elevated through our foundation, and then pull the shoulders up to the ear. So this is what we don't want. And then now take the shoulders out and down, and this broadens the collarbone. And then look out over the left arm. Good. Now take the right hand to the right hip, and then notice if the head of the arm bone is moving forward, and then pull it back so chest is open, and then left arm comes back. Really keep pressing down with those legs and trying to get more extension in the upper body. And notice through this stronger foundation, if this helps you get more elevated. So when we lean into life struggles, sometimes this can help us get more buoyant and overcome them. Good. Come back to center. Now we're going to take the left forearm to the left thigh, and then first just lean into that left arm. So this is what we don't want. We don't want the head of the arm bone coming up to the ear, because this kind of makes us rounded and close. So now really push down with the left forearm until the head of the arm bone moves away from the ear and the shoulder blade comes onto the back. Good. Now bring the right arm up and over, and then really press down with those legs and see if this helps lift those right ribs more. And you should feel this stretch even deeper on the side body the more that you press down with those legs and the left forearm. Good. And then come back to center, and then fold forward. Really blossom that booty out. Make sure that the spine is straight and not rounding. Okay, good. And then we're going to walk our hands to the front of the mat. Bring both legs back into plank. And then again, anytime in plank, feel free to drop the knees. And then we're going to lower all the way down. Press the top of the feet down, knees down, hips down. Hands come to the side by the armpit, and then push up. And as you push up, notice if the shoulders are turning in. And if they are, I want you to pull the shoulders back and only go as high as you can without losing the shoulder alignment. Good. And then start to drag the hands towards the hips, and this pulls the heart forward. Good. Exhale, lower down. Push back into downward facing dog. Good. Now lift the right leg up behind you, and then bring the right foot to the front of the mat and come up into a high runner's lunge. So in your high runner's lunge, we're going to really press down with the feet. And as you press down, it's almost like you're trying to rip the mat apart. See if this helps lift the heart up and extend the spine. And you may even feel like the upper body becomes lighter. Good. Now we're going to put all of the weight into our front foot. And without pushing off of our back foot, we're going to push into the right foot, and then come up and balance onto one foot. Good. And then step back. Now notice you may want to take a little bit of a shorter stance here. I'm out of breath. You may want to take a little bit of a shorter stance here to make this work. And if it's not hard, you're definitely not doing it right. So push down with that right heel and that right foot and really use your foundation without kicking up the back foot to come up and balance. Okay, good. Now we're going to go into tree. So you can either bring your foot to the ankle or all the way up to the thigh. Good. Now I want you to push down with that right foot. You may even want to try to create short foot. So take the front foot pad, drag it towards the heel. And as the ankle becomes stronger, this creates more stability. And then really press down and see if this helps lift the spine and the heart. And then you can bring the hands into prayer pose or up above. Good. And then we're going to start to move towards warrior 3. So bring the hands back to the hips. Good. And then we're going to start to balance on our right leg and move towards warrior 3. And as you do this difficult pose, see if you can use your breath in a way that helps you stay centered, even when you feel like you're going to fall down. And if you do fall down, see if you can smile and laugh and be fun. Okay, good. Step back into a high runner's lunge. Now we're going to bring the left hand down to the mat, maybe just a little bit wider than the mat. And then first I want you to just lean into that left arm. So our chest is falling. We're really not getting a ton of extension. Now I want you to push down with the left arm so that the chest lifts and starts to turn to the right, and then bring the right arm up and over. Good. And then bring both hands down to the mat. Step back into plank. And then lower all the way down. And then press the top of the feet down, knees down, hips down, and then push up. As you come up, first notice, so actually don't come up yet. First turn the shoulders in so they're facing down. And then now rotate the shoulders back so that the heart's open, and then push up. Now drag the hands towards the hips as you pull the spine longer. Good. Exhale, lower down, push back into downward facing dog. And now we're going to lift the left leg up and then bring the left foot to the front of the mat and come up into a high runner's lunge. So again, let's really press down with the feet. And as you press down the feet, it's almost like you're going to push, like tear the mat apart, and see if this helps pull the spine up. So we want to create as much space from our ribs right here to the top of the thigh as we can, so that our side bodies get really long. Good. Now we're going to lean into that front foot without kicking up the back foot, so you can come up and balance. Good. One more time. If you want to take a shorter stance here, seriously as short as you need, and then really push into that front foot and come up and balance. Good. We're going to do tree. So bring your foot to the ankle, or you can bring it all the way up to the thigh, but don't put it on the knee. Good. Now really push down. So first make short foot if you can. So drag that front foot pad towards the heel on the left foot and see if this helps create more stability in the ankle. Good. Now really press down with the left foot and try to create more extension in the spine. You want to push the right foot into the left leg as much as the left leg is pressing down. And this creates more stability. Good. And then see if you can use your breath to become centered. So this is good practice in real life, at getting centered in a stressful moment. Okay, good. Now we're going to start to move towards warrior 3. So bring the hands to the hips. And you don't have to go all the way. Just go as far as you can and see if you can stay as centered as possible. And as this pose gets harder, try to recommit. So our tendency will be to grip to pleasure and to run from pain. So this is good practice in staying in a moment that might not be our favorite, and it helps the nervous system calm down. So it's kind of like teaching ourselves to self-soothe. Good. And then step back into a high runner's lunge. Bring the right hand down to the mat. And then first just lean into that arm. The ear is probably right next to the shoulder. The shoulder is probably pointing forward. Now take the shoulder, pull the head of the arm bone away from the ear and the shoulder blade onto the back. And this will help broaden the chest and really push down with the right hand so that the chest lifts and turns to the left. And then bring the left arm up and over. Good. And then bring both hands down to the mat and step back into downward facing dog. Good. And then we're going to step the feet forward. And then we're going to fold forward. On your inhale, bring the hands to the top of the thighs. Push the thighs back, extend the heart forward, pull the shoulder blades down the back, and then fold forward. And then inhale, come all the way to standing. Okay, good. So now if you have blocks, I suggest grabbing them and getting them ready. If not, don't worry, I'll show you modifications along the way. So we're going to inhale, bring the arms up, exhale, fold forward, and then inhale, bring the hands to the top of the thighs, push the thighs back, extend the heart forward, and then fold forward. And now we're going to take our left foot back, and then we're going to turn both feet so that we're facing forward. And then we're going to take our blocks if you have them. And if you don't have them, that's totally fine. You can use your shins. And so now first I want everyone to round the pubis forward and make the lower back round. Okay. And put a little bend in the knees actually for this. Now I want you to take the pubis and move it back. It's almost like you're trying to take the sit bones and open them up. All right, good. So now just fold forward and hold this pose for a moment. And then we're going to start to release ourselves. So just kind of let go. So one thing that I notice a lot is when I go to yoga class, I will think a lot about like what I need to do later in the day or things that are kind of bothering me. But I didn't go to yoga class to think about all this stuff. So notice if you're doing that. And if you are, see if you can pull yourself back into the center and into the experience of the pose. So it's good to first start with our alignment, which is legs are strong, sit bones move back. And then once we have our alignment, see if you can drop into the experience of the pose. And as you do this, see if you can pull in more to the experience of yourself. A good way to focus our mind in one direction is to follow the breath. Okay, good. Now we're going to turn the right foot this way. And we're going to walk our hands towards the right foot. You may want to take a little bit wider stance here. And then you can either, if you have a block, you can bring the block on the inside of the front leg. If you don't, bring your hand pretty high up on the shin, but make sure that you're not hyperextending in the knee. So you want to make sure there's a little bend in the knee and that the leg is strong. So if you press on it, your leg shouldn't lose that little bend. Good. And then we're going to push in to the block or into our shin until we feel these left ribs lift. And then we're going to open up the right arm up and over. Good. And this is triangle pose. This used to be one of my least favorite poses. And now it's one of my favorites. Good. Really opening up that side body. The more you press down with your legs, the more this left ribs are going to lift up. Good. Now we're going to walk our hands back to the middle. So if you have blocks, you can bring them with you. And then we're going to turn the left foot towards the left. And we're going to walk our hands towards the left. So either you can bring a block on the inside of the leg. You can bring your hand to the shin. And then we're going to really press down with the feet until we feel this right ribs start to open. And the reason that we come up and we don't go all the way to the mat is because when we're all the way down, our chin or our chest usually kind of folds forward and we can't get open. So this is kind of like closing ourselves off to experiences. And so when we come up high enough, we can start to open the chest up more. And then we can really broaden the collarbones and get more of this expansiveness. Good. Now see if you can find that same experience of the pose even while doing a difficult pose. So we set up the alignment, and then now see if you can go into the experience. So we want to move away from all the thoughts, and we want to drop into a deeper place inside of us. And you can follow the breath as a way of turning the focus inward. Good. And then unwind. Very nice. Now we're going to grab our blanket, lay it down, and then come up onto your knees. And now we're going to bring the right foot forward. So this is another good time to have a block. So if you have one block, you could bring it in front like this. If you don't have a block, you can just use your shins. Make sure that you push down with the right heel so that you keep a little bend in the right knee. And then first we're going to round so I'll go this way so you can see it. First we're going to round the lower back and the pubis turns towards the face. Now I want you to take your pubis and move it back. And as you move it back, the lower back should get flat. And you can always check and see if you feel the dinosaur bumps. And then once you have the lower back, then you can start to fold forward. But only fold forward as far as you can without losing this extended spine and the heart lifting. And if you have a block, it does make it a little easier if you've got something that you can use. Get creative if you want. And then I want you to make this pose more intense, not by rounding forward, but by keep pulling the sit bones back. And this will help create a much deeper stretch in this inner thigh. And that's the fascia that like pulls our lower back around. And so when we stretch this inner thigh, we start to release the fascia on our lower back. And this can really help our spine and our alignment. Good. And then you can stay here, or if you want, you can start to move the front foot forward and move towards splits. Good. So this is one of my least favorite poses, but I always try to do it because it helps me practice staying calm in like a stressful situation. So see if while you're in this like really difficult pose, if you can still drop into that meditative space. And another trick I like to use is a mantra. So I like to say Sa on my inhale and Nam on my exhale. So Sa stands for truth and Nam stands for identity. So truth is my identity. And I just say this silently in my head. So our mind is always chanting something. And so when we use a mantra, we take the mind from chanting what it normally chants, which is usually worry and fear, and we change up that pattern into something different. We chant something that makes us feel better, and then we can focus the mind in the direction we want to focus it in. So I say Sa on my inhale, silently in my head, and then Nam on my exhale. Good. And then come out and switch sides. Now we're going to bring the left foot forward. Good. And then again, make sure that you push down with the left heel so that the left knee bends a little bit. And then first we're going to round the lower back. So notice this probably stretches your back more. But our back is usually actually pretty flexible. It's usually our legs that are less flexible. So now we're going to take the lower back and we're going to move the pubis down and away from the face, and this flattens the lower back. Good. And if you have blocks, you can kind of start to walk them forward. If you don't, you can just walk your hands down the leg. Good. And then I want you to again make this stretch more intense, not by rounding forward. We want to keep the heart lifted and the spine extended, but I want you to make it more intense by moving the pubis back. And it's almost like you're trying to open these sit bones and blossom them backwards. And the more that you move your pubis back, the deeper the stretch is going to be in this groin, this inner groin. And that's what creates that flexibility that we want rather than our lower back. Good. And then you can stay here or you can start to move towards the splits. Good. And then again, practice going into that meditative space, even in a pose that's pretty uncomfortable. We don't want it to be painful, but we want it to be a little bit uncomfortable so that we can practice how we respond to uncomfortable situations. And so, again, go back to the breath. Sat on the inhale, nam on the exhale. I have a teacher that says that we should roll the red carpet out to pain because a lot of the times it's our painful circumstances that help our soul grow the most. And so I'm not there yet, but that's kind of what we're working towards. And it may take a lifetime to get there, but we have a lifetime to work on it. So keep going back into the center. Sat on the inhale, nam on the exhale. And see if you can have this deeper experience in the pose. Good. And then unwind, shake it out. Okay, we're going to do one last pose before a little cool down and meditation. So to start, lay the blanket down and we're going to come into plank on our knees and then we're going to lift the feet up. Good. So first I want you to take the feet and drop them to the right. And then I want you to push down with the right hand until the left ribs lift. So you're in this like side plank, this modified side plank. Good. And then you can bring the left arm up and over. Good. And then come back to center. Drop the knees to the left. Push down with the left hand so that the right chest lifts. And then open up into a modified side plank. Good. And then come back to center. So you can do that exact same pose again with the knees down. Or if you want, you can come up onto the feet. And then I want you to bring the feet out so that they're the width of your mat, so they're far apart. And then we're going to drop the heels to the right, push down with the right hand so that the left ribs lift, and then open up. And as you push down, see if you can lift the hips and the ribs even more like a rainbow. Good. So I've noticed in my life, some of the most challenging moments are the moments that have helped me become stronger and grow the most. And sometimes it's the exact nutrients I needed. Good. Come back to center. Now turn the heels to the left. Start to open up, really press down with the left hand so that the head of the arm bone moves away from the air. The shoulder blade comes onto the back. And then open the right chest up, right ribs lift, right hips lift, right arm comes over like a rainbow. And then see if you can stay in this pose long enough to get the nutrients out of it, even if it's difficult. Good. And then come back to center. And then you can do that way or on the knees one more time. This time we're going to bring the feet closer together. And then we're going to come up onto the outer edge of the right foot. And we're going to stack the left foot on top of the right foot. Now press down with the right hand so that the ribs and the hips lift, and then bring the left arm up and over. And as you really press down, see if you can even open up the heart even more so that you're opening yourself up to all of life's experiences, even the challenging ones. Good. And then come back to center. Same thing. Turn onto the outer edge of the left foot, stack the right foot, really press down with the left arm so that the head of the arm bone moves away from the air. Shoulder blade comes onto the back. And then we start to open the right chest up towards the ceiling. And then try to go into that meditative space of the experience. Rather than thinking about how hard it is, see if you can drop into the experience of the pose. Good. And then come back to center. Shake it out. And then now we're going to do one last warm or cool down, and then we're going to do a meditation. So come into downward facing dog. Good. Lift the right leg up behind you. And then we're going to bring the right foot forward into pigeon. And so what I notice a lot in pigeon is that we kind of like lean onto our right hip. But instead, what I want you to do is pull the right leg a little bit closer towards the left knee. So you have this like lift right here. And this left hip's up and it's not falling down. And then we're going to come into active pigeon. As you come into active pigeon, start to drag this front knee towards the back knee and the back knee towards the front knee. And this will help lift you up. Good. And then keeping the legs super active, then we start to fold forward. So keep those legs active. If your left hip starts to fall down, then you're not pushing down enough with the left knee. And then as you do this, start to move the pubis back. And this will create a much deeper stretch on the inner thighs. And that hamstring. Good. And then you can even practice going into the meditative mind through a mantra. So Sat on the inhale, Nam on the exhale. Good. And then unwind, come back into downward facing dog. Lift the left leg up behind you. Bring the left foot to the front of the mat. Good. And then press down with the left knee and the right knee. And this will lift the hips up and then start to drag the left knee towards the right knee. If you need to bring the legs in just a little closer together, totally fine. And then come up. Bring your hands to the hips. So this is pretty challenging. Rather, pigeon turns from an easy pose into a hard pose. Good. And then keeping the legs pressing down, then bring the hands down. And then start to fold forward. Good. And then the pubis usually is rounding in. So take the pubis, move it back. This will straighten the lower back. And this will also make a much deeper stretch on this outer glute and inner groin area. Keep the legs strong and active. And this actually helps us create more stability. So the body gets signals. The nervous system will send signals to the brain that it's safe. And it'll allow for the nervous system to calm down and be less reactive because it'll feel more safe and stable. And then when we do that, our body can actually stretch deeper. Good. And then unwind. So at this point, you could push pause and do Shavasana. Shavasana is usually the final pose in yoga where we lay on our back and then we turn the palms facing up. I like to put a blanket over me and lay there for anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes and just let the body reset. So I highly recommend pushing pause now and then coming back to the video and finishing with this final meditation. All right, so the final meditation is called, Rebuild Yourself. And basically what it does is it helps us reset our endocrine system. So the endocrine system is what releases hormones into the body and it regulates our emotions and our moods. And so when we can reset our endocrine system often, what happens is our emotions, instead of being on this like up and down roller coaster, we start to help regulate the emotions so that the ups and downs aren't so big. So we'll get more of these littler ups and downs. But we want to do it consistently, and we want to do it for a long period of time. So not necessarily in duration, but consistently over a long period of time. So the more that you do this pose, even if it's just 3 minutes a day, but if you set a goal to do this pose every day for like a week or every day for 40 days, then you'll really start to notice the endocrine system start to reset itself and balance the emotions in the body. So the way that we do this pose is we take the left hand and we turn the palm facing down. And then we take the right hand right over the left hand, just like this, palm facing down. So it's kind of like I Dream of Jeannie a little bit. And then we're going to look at the tip of the nose so that your eyes are like 9/10 open. And then we're going to take a deep inhale through the mouth and then exhale out the nose. And then deep inhale through the mouth. And then exhale out the nose. So we're going to do this for 3 minutes. And then I will help you end the timer. So remember, it's a deep inhale through the mouth, and then we exhale out the nose, and then eyes are 9/10 closed, just a nice relaxed look. You can look down at like the nose area. Left palm faces down, right palm faces down. Good. And then we're going to start now. So deep inhale through the mouth. Exhale out the nose. Deep inhale through the mouth. Exhale out the nose. And just keep going at your own pace. Drop the shoulder blades down the back, heart is lifted. As this pose gets harder, your subconscious is going to try to resist it. And as your subconscious tries to resist it, see if you can recommit and work through the challenge and try to stay centered as you work through this like opposition and resistance you're going to feel. One minute to go. Try to be still like a deity. Okay, good. Now hold the pose. Take a deep inhale through the mouth. And then hold the breath at the top and start to squeeze all of the energy into the center of your being. Pull the energy into the center. Squeeze so much you start to shake. And then keep holding the pose. And then we're going to exhale out the mouth or out the nose. Deep inhale through the mouth. Hold the breath at the top, squeeze all the energy into the center, close the eyes, look into the third eye space, and keep squeezing energy into the center. Squeeze so much you shake, squeeze, 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 and then exhale out the mouth or nose. And then one last deep inhale through the mouth, like you're sucking the air through a straw. Hold the breath at the top and then squeeze into the center. Look into the third eye gaze. Squeeze so much that you're shaking. Squeeze and exhale. Bring the hands down to your lap and then just sit in this space that you've created. And take in the moment and the experience of yourself. So we want to develop the conditions in the body that uplift us so that no matter what's happening in the material world, we're always okay. Real bliss is developed from the inside and is not based on external conditions. At the nucleus of your being, you vibrate pure love, light, and bliss. Bring the hands into Namaste and bow to yourself for showing up for this practice. Satnam.